impact. There's a lot of trees. You're going to have a lot of power lines down. But even here in the Tampa Bay area, there is going to be power outages. So just prepare for that. We've got a lot of people staged that are going to do something about it to try to restore, but there's no way you're going to get through this storm without losing power. So just make those preparations. We want to make sure, and we've been stressing that if you have municipal electrical outfits, co-ops, make sure that they're willing to accept the mutual aid. You're going to have Florida Power and Light. Some of the bigger companies are going to have linemen ready to go. They can be of assistance, and we really want to have a force multiplier here. The quicker we could get the power restored, the better off everyone's going to be. We had a lot of success after Hurricane Ian, but when there were outfits that didn't accept the aid right away, it took longer to restore the power. We want to get that power back on as quickly as possible. If counties need additional resources, and we basically have all the Gulf Coast counties from Tampa Bay all the way up until Franklin County in Northwest Florida, I know have been actively involved in preparing. If you need something from the state, submit that request as soon as possible. We'll be able to deliver it today, throughout most of the day tomorrow, but as we get into the late afternoon, early evening, it's going to start to get really, really nasty. It's going to be tough to be on the road and doing that. So see what you need. If you need anything, contact the Florida Division of Emergency Management as soon as possible. We want to be helpful, and we want to get you what you need. I have spoken with the President. I've spoken with FEMA Director Criswell, and then I've spoken with a number of local officials throughout Florida's Gulf Coast, and everyone understands the significance of this event, and everybody is willing to work together to achieve the best possible outcome for the residents of Florida. Now, as of 10 a.m. this morning, the storm is located south of Cuba with winds 65 miles per hour. It will become a hurricane later today without question. Current forecast is to make landfall around Florida's Big Bend region, but I think, as we know, there's going to be things that happen in terms of interactions with jet stream and all this other stuff that could push the storm further eastward. So the further east it goes, the more impacts it's going to have on the overall Florida peninsula. So I would say everybody on the Florida Gulf Coast, just watch and be prepared and take the necessary action to protect you and your family, particularly as you get directives coming down from your local emergency managers. There is a hurricane warning in place from Sarasota County all the way up through Northwest Florida on Florida's Gulf Coast. You are going to see more of those warnings and watches come in the next day or two. We have had our pre-landfall declaration that we requested from the federal government. That has been approved, and we appreciate the administration for doing that. I've added today an additional 13 counties to our state of emergency, total 46 counties that are under the executive order now. Of course, the Gulf Coast counties, but this is likely going to cut across the interior of the state. It's going to impact a lot of counties in north central Florida and potentially northeast Florida as well. We are operating at the state as level 1, 24/7, round the clock. We did have a call with all the local emergency managers earlier this morning to discuss preparation efforts and needs. And again, just be ready to go, submit any requests that you have, and make sure you're communicating with your residents. We have had evacuation orders that have been issued by some of these counties. I know Kathy's going to come and talk about what they're doing here in Pinellas. And so our message from the state is to heed those warnings, particularly if you're in the zone A, barrier islands, very low-lying places. This is going to be something that you are going to face impacts of. Even if the storm is off the coast here in the Tampa Bay area, you're still going to see significant impacts from the surge. So heed that warning. When you're told to evacuate, you do not need to get in your car and drive so you're outrunning the storm or going to a different state or driving hundreds of miles. If you're in a vulnerable area, you evacuate to higher ground in a safe structure. A lot of times you don't even need to leave your county. So you're talking about evacuating tens of miles rather than hundreds of miles. That also is better. There's going to be less accidents on the road. You're not going to have to wait in traffic. If everyone jams the interstate, it can get very, very miserable. So Florida's got most of these structures, homes, hotels, stuff that are on the higher ground are going to be able to withstand a major hurricane. So just understand that and take that into account. We don't need people, you certainly don't need to be going hundreds and hundreds of miles. And I know we've had instances in the past where people tried to outrun the storm. The storm would actually take a little bit change in direction, and it turned out that they actually evacuated into the storm. So don't worry about the track as much. Just worry about if you're in one of those areas, get to the higher ground, get to the place that's going to be safe. Most of the threats that we're going to face is going to be from the surge. And so you're basically going away from the water as best you can. The structures are going to be able to handle, by and large, the winds. We do have a lot of fuel that is stationed. It's on the way. It's going to be pre-staged, 200,000 gallons of fuel. We had a good fuel response with Hurricane Ian. A lot of the gas stations got up pretty quickly. There may not end up being major interruptions in fuel supply, but there may be, and so we want to make sure that we have that available. So that will be available as needed once the storm passes. We have 7 urban search and rescue teams ready to deploy to the impacted area. Of course, things like water and MREs and all that, tarps, all that stuff will be staged, will be ready to go. So just please remain vigilant and please follow orders from your local emergency management personnel. We'll have a total of 5,500 National Guard by the end of today that will be mobilized. They've got a lot of assets at their disposal, and they stand by ready to help with the post-storm mission. FDLE and Florida Highway Patrol are working 24/7 shifts, and that's hundreds of additional personnel that will be assisting in the storm aftermath. We do have the Starlink internet that we used a lot after Hurricane Ian, so we have 650 of those Starlinks that are ready to deploy in the impacted areas, and we want to get those to people as soon as we can once the storm passes, and we will do that. There's a lot of announcements from the school districts about schools being closed. I would anticipate, I know a number of them have already issued directives. Just listen to your local school district, but I would anticipate you're going to see a lot of school closures along Florida's Gulf Coast over the next couple days. So parents, please pay attention to that and please make the necessary arrangements. We are ready to surge resources once the storm passes. It's really important that anybody who's in need of rescue, that we were going to have people there. Hopefully not a lot of people. Hopefully they heed the warnings and they don't end up in harm's way, but we're going to have people ready to be able to effectuate rescues. We also, in terms of this gas, Wilton Simpson, our ag commissioner, was with us this morning. There was a cross-contamination of diesel fuel into regular fuel at the Port of Tampa, and so that got distributed to some gas stations. So this was something that was identified over the weekend. We weren't sure, the Department of Agriculture wasn't necessarily sure how many initially stations that this impacted. Turns out it's about 29 stations, and so those have been identified. They're taking remedial action. People who use gas on that, just beware, you may have ended up having a cross-contamination. Maybe it's just a little diesel and it get diluted, but if it was all diesel, that's going to cause a problem. So check that out for those stations. We don't think this is going to end up being a major impact on the fuel supply, though. There's already been some of the stations have already had remediation. Others are going to be remediated today and through tomorrow. So that likely isn't going to be a reason. If there somehow is a fuel interruption, it'll likely be for other reasons other than that. Evacuation. So Rosen Hotels has activated its Florida resident distress rates. So that's going to be a reduced rate for families that do need to evacuate. So keep that in mind. And I know some of the other companies and hotels will probably likely do the same thing in the ensuing days. And again, you don't need to go to Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee. You can go somewhere within the state, even within your own county, and be all good. Generators. As you prepare for the storm and you prepare to lose power, using a generator is a great way to be able to restore connectivity, but you got to use it properly. You have to keep it outdoors.
All right, Governor Ron DeSantis speaking there in Pinellas County, Florida here, giving the latest updates on the latest track there. We'll continue to listen in here in just moments, but we want to continue our coverage right here as it is the top of the hour. Want to reset right here. I'm your host, Mike Page. Thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox as we continue to track Tropical Storm Idalia, going to be a major hurricane. We want to check in now with Fox Weather's Robert Ray joining us from Clearwater right now to give us an update on the preps that are going on. Robert.
Yeah, good afternoon to you from Clearwater Beach. You see the Gulf of Mexico, very warm. 90 degrees is the surface temp here, and that's not good for a storm that is about to have a rapid intensification and make its way up here with a potential Cat 3 landfall north of here in the Big Bend area of Florida. But we just got word from Pinellas County, and I mean 10, 15 minutes ago, that there are mandatory evacuations now here on Clearwater Beach. They want people to start their way out, the trek, and it's going to take a long time. They want people to start their way out before 6 p.m. tonight, as a matter of fact. And you take a look over there at one of the bridges that goes over the waterway. That's the place where you're going to start to see vehicles moving over and going inland. They're advising to get to the center of the state, maybe Orlando or even to the east, southeast area like Fort Lauderdale and those pockets. All the storm surge watches and warnings are on the Gulf side. And so there's not really one area that's not going to be affected. And we are potentially looking at up to 7 feet or more of surge here on Clearwater Beach. I mean, this will be surrounded by water, deadly if you're out here, and vehicles will be washed away. And if you're on a first floor and you're in a home, you could find yourself in a position that is catastrophic. And so that is why they are advising people to leave. Mandatory evacs. Governor DeSantis urging that, Pinellas County and state emergency officials. National Guard is already on the ground here. FEMA is here. More FEMA is on the way. The airport tonight closes at midnight in Tampa. And so, you just feel the severity building up, unfortunately. This storm is expected to come in and somewhere to the north of where I'm at make landfall late Tuesday night, like middle of the night, like 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning into Wednesday. And so there's not a whole lot of time to evacuate and get your plans ready, as this is going to be a very bad situation in the coming days. Back to you.
All right, Robert Ray, breaking it all down for us. We're wishing you the best and your team there. We know that you are going to be continuing to give updates on Fox Weather, and we are looking forward to those as well. Robert, thanks so much for that update. And a reminder to everyone on Fox Weather that Hurricane HQ, they are providing extensive coverage on their platforms. You could download at foxweather.com. You could see them, check them out on the Apple Store as well as Google Play. So we will be going back out now to Pinellas County, Florida for the latest there with officials, including Governor Ron DeSantis.
Sign up and we will forward that stuff, that information to the county level. So please, the time is now. You heard the governor talk about acting. It is now time to put your plan into action. Please make sure you're doing that. Make sure you have enough food and water for the next 7 days. We will work diligently with the county to get food, water, fuel, power restored. Melissa is obviously here with Duke Energy. She told me that they have already 4,500 resources staged and ready to go. And again, those independent-owned utilities will continue to raise their numbers over the next several days to where we get to tens of thousands. If you are looking for resources for this particular event, please make sure you go to floridadisaster.org/updates so that you can get the updates on our resources and what's going on. Again, you can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FLSERT, at Florida CERT. Again, Governor, thank you for your leadership. I appreciate your help and everything that you've done for us.
Okay. Kathy?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Governor, for coming here and bringing a spotlight to us and our concerns. Thank you, Director Guthrie, for all of your leadership at the State Division of Emergency Management. We are very concerned here in Pinellas County because we do have life-threatening storm threat. We could see 4 to 7 feet of storm surge, and for